Hello. Luddite setting up phone. Alright, there we go. So, this is a watercolor. This was one of the first, maybe even the first watercolor done after not having done them for over 20 years. So, this is a story about getting over frustration, whether it's with art or anything else. And it's also a story about listening and dealing with problems. So, as a 2-year-old, was completely obsessed. Here's another one that was done around the same time. Was completely obsessed with the movie Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, the old animated Disney film. Drew a lot, had also worked in Play-Doh, but had not tried painting yet, and was kindly given by my loving father, who himself painted houses but didn't work in fine art, a kid's Crayola watercolor set. And got really excited about it, was given the kids' Crayola watercolor set, some, probably, computer paper, and some water, and, was left to paint while he went and worked. And my grandmother was in the adjoining kitchen doing a mountain of dishes. So, kept playing Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, where the Wicked Queen is talking to the magic mirror. Was blown away as a kid by the effects of the swirling colors around the magic mirror. Perhaps the ovals in the Crayola watercolor kit brought it to mind, and was trying to recreate that effect. Unfortunately, a nylon brush on computer paper, you can see this is actually done on, some good Arches watercolor rag paper. That does make a huge difference. And a nylon brush doesn't hold water very well. But, of course, as a 2-year-old kid, was not aware of this and was trying to make this effect. It was intensely frustrating. Must have rewound that bit. Rewinding was a thing back then. You could play back a movie by rewinding it on this analog thing called a VHS. I don't know, what seemed like 100 times, probably wasn't, but what seemed like 100 times, the nylon brush was cutting holes right through the computer paper. Page after page after page was getting thrown away. My poor mother was very annoyed at the amount of paper went through with drawing when starting things over because they weren't right. This made that look tame. And ran out of colors in the ovals. And yeah, basically totally had a meltdown. A 2-year-old tantrum over this. This was the biggest problem this 2-year-old artist had ever had, and she was having a full-on 2-year-old tantrum about it. So my lovely grandmother comes in from the mountain of dishes that she was working on. And she just listens to the temper tantrum. She stands there with her head cocked, crouched over to be a little bit lower at eye level. Not at eye level, but closer to eye level. And she's listening to every word of this rant kindly as she's standing still and looking concerned. And finally the rant stops. She just stands there and she says, take some time, processes the information, don't even remember exactly what was said, but got the idea that was having trouble with the painting. So the first attempt at painting, remember, she goes, well, maybe you should lay off the watercolor for a while and go back to drawing and try it again later. Other than maybe a couple more attempts at the mirror and, being made to do watercolor in art school, high school a couple of times. Later became about 20 plus years later. And these are some of the first things that were done. Even using Arches, tended to draw on it or just use watercolor to tint and then draw. And this was the segue from, you can see, drawing marks, from drawing marks to actually doing watercolor. Even when starting painting, started in oils. So, a couple of lessons. If you're getting very frustrated learning something, whether it's art or something else, sometimes the best thing you can do is stop it for a while and go back to it later. Not suggesting 20 years. That was a bit extreme. But, there's an interesting bit in a book on logic by Lewis Carroll. The name of it is escaping the brain pan at the moment. But he's talking about learning mathematics. And he makes the same point. Sometimes when you're struggling with a problem, you just put it away and go back to it the next morning in math, and then you find it to be quite easy. And that's true of a lot of things, but even as important, if not more importantly, didn't think about it until years later starting watercolor again, this whole incident. But my grandmother, intentionally or not, taught me something extremely important. She had real problems. She lived through a war. She had 2 husbands die. She lived with poverty, moved from another country, never got her license, walked to work, raised 5 kids, a lot of the time by herself after her first husband died. And she had bigger problems, to say the least, to put it mildly. She had seen, so much worse. Objectively, the problems of a 2-year-old having a meltdown, because she's having trouble getting watercolors to work, is not only not a big problem, but from her perspective, it was not even something she could relate to. She was not an artist. She may have had absolutely no idea what the 2-year-old having a meltdown was even talking about to her. But she took the time to listen anyway. um, which is an incredible, amazing thing, and an incredible lesson. You know, maybe she missed her calling. She would have been a great negotiator. But then again, maybe she didn't. Anyway, thank you for listening. Hope this helps.